Welcome to the Redemptorist Missio Studios here at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Czestochowa in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. My name is Evelyn Walsh, and I am the director of the Rachel's Vineyard Ministries here at the shrine. Our program series is entitled Touched by Mercy, Moved by Love. Rachel's Vineyard was founded by Dr. Theresa Burke in 1986 with the mission to offer therapeutic support groups for post-abortive women in a way that offers renewal, healing, hope, and redemption by hearts broken by abortion. Not too long afterwards, this healing ministry included men who lost fatherhood, grandparents, siblings, and even those who have worked in the abortion industry, who had a conversion of heart. So truly, anyone who has ever been touched by abortion. I would like to introduce Dr. Theresa Burke, our founder, and our friend Emily, who will be sharing her story with us today. Welcome.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you for having me.
Emily, it's so great to have you here. We really appreciate you coming and being willing to share your story.
It's an honor and a blessing to be here today. 14 years ago on this day, I had my abortion.
Whoa.
So this is very much an act of love and contrition and honor for me to be here.
It's an anniversary.
Yes.
And it's nice to see you smiling on such a day because I know it's a rough time.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So what would you like to share about how the decision came and how it impacted you? Let's just jump right in.
Okay. Well, in 2009, I was 17 years old, and I had a forced abortion at my local Planned Parenthood. And I don't use the word forced lightly. It was forced in every sense of the word, and it was forced from my parents and the clinic itself, silencing my plea for help.
Wow, that sounds really traumatic.
Yeah.
How did that unfold?
It starts back at the age of 13. I was raped, and that definitely made me vulnerable to the world of teen pregnancy and abortion. I flirted with self-harm and promiscuity as a result, and that led to my unplanned pregnancy at 17.
I'm so sorry that that happened to you, and it is true that when you have a traumatic event that's boundary violating, it does create the conditions to accept that and think it's normal later.
Yeah.
Any kind of sexual abuse or violence, sexual violence.
It sets the stage
Sure does.
for, behavior that isn't
I
healthy.
I think we've researched this before, and close to 60% of people who come into Rachel's Vineyard have previous histories of some kind of abuse as child or in their teenage years.
Yes.
Or sexual violence.
Yes. I was brought up in a Catholic school, was raised Catholic. I knew what abortion was and had always considered myself pro-life. So I was in disbelief when I shared with my parents that they wanted me to just have an abortion and keep it quiet. As a result, they gave me an ultimatum to either have the abortion or leave home. I temporarily left home. Felt like forever, but I believe it was only a week or two.
You're only 16?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's rough.
And then out of fear of not having a safe place to go, I had convinced myself that I would agree to their terms, get to go home, and then I would have the time between coming home and my scheduled abortion to convince them that we had other options. And in my mind, I had a fail-safe that if that didn't work when I went to my abortion, I would cause a scene and ask for help. And I very much thought that if I expressed that they wouldn't be able to legally do an abortion, perform an abortion on me.
It sounds like a really good plan, actually. 'Cause it gives you a little more time. And the idea that a daughter could convince the parents or a medical clinic seems very reasonable.
Yeah. Little did I know that Planned Parenthood had its own agenda and would be willing to perform an abortion on a little girl who was screaming and crying out for help.
That seems kind of horrible.
Yeah. Going back to the actual day of my abortion, my mother takes me. There's a couple steps in the process. The first step was to have your counseling session and paperwork. And originally I went into the counseling session by myself and my mom stayed out of the room. But when I stated that I was being forced, I was here against my will, I do not want this done today, I need help. The counselor told me that I was just a child and it's impossible for me to know what's best for myself. I should just listen to my parents. So she called my mom into the room. They kind of ganged up on me and then called my father to have him remind me that it was either have the abortion or don't come home. I remember kind of seizing up and being quiet and then just walking back to the waiting room. Panicked and thinking, what am I going to do next? You know, time's ticking. Then the next step was to have an ultrasound done. I go back to the ultrasound and I could hear the heartbeat, even though the volume was very low and the screen was turned away. I could still hear and I could feel the presence of my baby. So I began to panic. I was hyperventilating, sweating profusely. And I knew that it was like now or never. So mid-ultrasound, I jumped up off the table, kind of ran out of the room, but was quickly cornered up against a door by staff. And then everything goes black. And the next thing I know, I woke up in a recovery chair. So I'll never know what was actually done to me, but I believe that I was medically sedated.
That's an incredible story. It sounds like you were incredibly pressured by bringing everybody in. You used the word ganged up on me. And then even when you were trying to escape, like an animal caught in a trap.
My body wasn't my own. You know, I wasn't allowed to make my own decisions. They were going to make them for me.
Yeah, this is so tragic, especially when it's touted as a woman's choice.
Exactly.
Waiting for that one person to just...
Yeah, I had it in my mind that if I went in and, you know, said, I'm not doing this willingly, you know, even though I was under 18, I would think that you would have to consent or at least be like cooperative. But it goes black and then I wake up in a recovery chair in the recovery room. And there's multiple women all around us in our armchairs, you know, half conscious with our medical gowns on. And I could tell from the blood, you know, in between my legs that it was done and that my baby was gone. And I have a vivid memory of looking to my side in the haze and just grabbing the hand of the woman next to me. And we both just sobbed and held hands until it was my turn to get called up to go to the bathroom to get changed. So very traumatic, almost autopilot. I couldn't, you know, I almost couldn't fathom what was actually happening to me. It felt like a bad dream.
You must have been in a state of shock, especially with all the upset and attempts to keep your pregnancy.
Yeah, and I felt so much guilt, like that I didn't fight hard enough.
Yeah. You
know, that I could have done better, but I did the best that I could with what I had at the time.
It sounds like you did heroic efforts.
Thank you.
They weren't listening.
Yeah.
So sad.
Yeah, you fought as hard as you possibly
could.
Yeah,
my soul was shattered. The soul was shattered.
That's a good way to describe it.
Empty. You feel an emptiness. And then the days following, I started to experience these like paralyzing waves of like mental anguish, but it was like physical. I could feel it from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes. And I couldn't look at my parents the same anymore. You know, that betrayal was deep. And I had begun to like question my whole reality around me. How could we, you know, act as if everything was okay when I was so clearly not okay? It didn't take long for me to discover drugs as a way of numbing myself to the pain. If I was high, I wasn't thinking, you know, anything at all. And that was the only way that I felt like okay.
It was adaptive in terms of not being able to tolerate
Yeah.
the level of distress that your nervous system was in. So that's what people do. They numb.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was using it for.
Yeah.
You know. I spent a year abusing myself both physically and mentally with opioid drugs and just all around dangerous behavior. And I allowed others to abuse me, and because I felt dirty, I felt like I deserved everything that was happening to me.
You had a lot of shame.
Yeah, lots of shame.
I wonder how many those who are working through addiction, do they realize that possibly this could have been the catalyst to them heading towards using substances to numb their pain?
I think a lot of drug use stems from trauma.
Yeah.
And as a way to cope. And then it gets out of control.
All kinds of eating disorders are linked to previous abortion trauma, from eating disorders to even workaholism, sex addiction, that reenactment of the betrayal again and again.
Yeah.
And that's all part of unresolved grief and pregnancy loss.
Yeah.
So if you can't find a way to mourn and be understood and validated in your grief, people act it out with their bodies and they tell the story in different ways.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing and so painful. I look at you and I see that you're young, and I feel very happy that you went through healing earlier than later.
Yes, I think that is key to my story. My parents didn't give up on me, so they made that horrible decision. But during the drug use, I would disappear and, not, throw my phone so they couldn't get in touch with me. They always came out looking for me, never gave up on me. I know my parents confided in friends about what was going on, the drug use and the erratic behavior. And my mom confided in a friend named Andrea, and Andrea suggested Rachel's Vineyard to my mother. And in spring of 2010, I attended my first Rachel's Vineyard retreat with my mother.
And your mom's the one who found out. Do you think that your mom and dad both noticed this drastic change in your behavior and the way that you conducted yourself after that?
After the retreat or after the abortion?
After the abortion.
Yes, it was all linked together. I had some struggles, with having the rape as a young girl, but there was even that violation doesn't even come close to the violation that I suffered with having an abortion. That is the ultimate violation of our bodies and our souls and our hearts.
Yeah, a lot of women say it's worse than rape.
Yes. Yeah.
Abortion is worse.
So that erratic behavior and the drug use and the coming and going and was all tied to the abortion event. And my parents very well knew that.
Yeah, it's so good to hear that they could recognize that, because a lot of people see their daughter spiral, but they don't want to admit that it was something that they had coerced and forced, and even to the point, like you were saying, you either leave this house where you're supposed to go or do. Right. So it's really a very tight reign of control over your autonomy. Yeah, and I'm glad she could recognize that and get you help. Thank God for that.
Thank God.
It's kind of a miracle.
It is, because like I said, I was using opioid drugs. So within a year, if I never found the help that I could found, I don't know what that would have continued to look like. I really believe that if I didn't find Rachel's Vineyard and go on that first retreat a year after my abortion, it was only going to be a matter of time before I succumbed to the pain in my heart or the drugs that I was putting in my body. So I look at my children and my family that I have today, and I'm very thankful
that you made it through.
Yes.
And there is a very high correlation of suicide after abortion.
Yeah.
That's been well documented by researchers all over the world. And thank God you're still here and you have a beautiful family. What happened after that what happened at the first weekend?
So I remember being skeptical and my heart was guarded. I had thoughts of, well, you had done this to me. Why do you want to take me here? But at that point, I needed to do whatever I needed to do get myself healthy again. So me and my mother attended the retreat together. And during one of the exercises that was pivotal that weekend for me is the priest that was in the room with us. He was walking around and laying his hands on our heads and asked us, what do we ask of Jesus? And I responded, the strength to forgive my parents. And in a few moments after that, I felt like a wave of calmness and peace come over me. And for the first time, I could like really see and understand the pain that my mom was going through too. And I knew that if I was asking God for forgiveness for the part that I played, that I needed to forgive them as well.
Wow, what a grace to even have the insight of all the things that you could ask for in that exercise, of that you would ask for the grace of forgiveness to forgive them. That's sort of front and center of, I think it's a very extraordinary thing that God would put on your heart, because he knew where the biggest hurt was. It was in that ruptured relationship with the parents and also the baby.
Yes.
So,
yes. And that weekend, I was really able to see a different side of my mother. For so long, all I was thinking was, they could care less about the baby, and I could see the emotion and that sorrow in her heart, and that, I took solace in that she was grieving with me, and that, she had regretted what she did. And that weekend was pivotal in healing our fractured relationship.
Well, I think being able to see somebody grieve deeply and earnestly the loss that you were experiencing, and to witness that is really healing. That's why I love it when families can come together, a spouse can come, or a grandparent, or
yes, I think that's important.
Or at least to the memorial service if they can't come for the entire weekend.
Yeah.
I think it also, when you're in a room of people that have experienced trauma, which is everybody's story unfolds, it really validates and legitimizes your grief, because so many people think, I never hear about this. They say it's fine, women aren't bothered.
Yes.
And yet the pain is so deep, it's just often a secret grief. So being together, and I think that's helpful for family members to see too, even if it's at the memorial service, because it's not that something's wrong with you because you can't get over it, which so many people hear. Just get over it, get on with your life.
Yeah,
it's in the past. You'll have another one someday, and all these things.
Yeah,
they don't comfort the mourner.
Yeah,
even in your case, when you, I might be jumping ahead, but you did come to a second one, but then Mike was with you for that one.
I attended a second Rachel's Vineyard retreat in 2017 after the birth of my first child. I had found that being pregnant was triggering, and I started to be like, why is this pregnancy more important than the others? And I could feel myself slip into the darkness. And thankfully I had that good foundation from my first retreat, that I knew I needed to get help and I knew where to go. So I went on another retreat, and this time I had brought my boyfriend, now husband, Michael, who was the father of the child that I had just given birth to. And it was a great way for him to really truly see me in the raw, and better understand me and how to love me, because he knew, it wasn't a secret. He knew the pain that I was in, some of the things that I was going through.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, what a foundation to go into even marriage with.
Yes.
Knowing that secret, as you said, but also his sensitive compassion, the times when you'd be triggered, in the whole process going through it after the loss. It's really kind of critical. I think we often recommend people that have had abortions before they get married to share that as part of pre-Cana.
Yes.
Because it can be such a toxic secret if they don't know.
Yes.
And to disclose that and go on a Rachel's Vineyard together, or spiritually adopt the child of that loss.
Yes, which he did.
Yeah, how wonderful. So it's part of your family now.
Yeah.
The loss that occurred before you even met him, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
God is good. He brings life out of death in such a beautiful way.
He does. He has a way of taking our pain and our darkness and transforming it into light, into being able to do things positively. I promised my baby that I would go on and be the best mother and person I could be in honor of him. And that gives me strength. So I'm not reflecting on his loss as much, but I'm reflecting on the impact he had on my life and how I'm going to allow that to be positive and not negative, and look to him for guidance, and not let him be forgotten, and have him be a part of my family.
Such a beautiful way to honor the memory by being the best mom you could be.
Exactly.
It's such a beautiful testament to your love for that child.
Yeah.
That you would just pour yourself into loving the others, which would be siblings.
Yes. Yes.
And what is his name?
My baby, his name is Boo Boo. I never gave him an official name because to me, we had which you'll see when I read my letter later, I called him Boo Boo, and that felt that's his name.
Oh, it's so
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, too often women who experience an abortion have to suffer in silence, and there's that stigma of not feeling okay. Like everyone leads you to believe you will afterwards. It's not a quick fix. And even being ridiculed and bullied for not supporting abortion or abortion for others, and that self-denial that some women fall into, where repeating that behavior or repeating abortion somehow makes it okay, Yeah,
it's a numbing. I think 50% of all abortions it was 50%, it's come down a little bit, but are repeat procedures.
Yeah.
And that has everything to do with the unresolved grief, because there's plenty of ways to prevent it.
Yeah.
But I think people do get into those self-destructive patterns that you described, not just with drugs, but multiple abortions.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're feeling the hurt of abortion or know somebody who has, I urge you not to be silent. Recommend Rachel's Vineyard or a like program for healing, because you really could be saving a life and saving a lot of turmoil for people. I know there's lots of women that go, all throughout their lives not receiving healing.
That's right. It's a tragedy. Even in hospitals, when women are on hospice, we hear again and again from the nurses that this issue is front and center, that people don't want to go into death, or if they have cancer, without reconciling this wound. It is deep.
Yeah.
And it is a soul-shattering injury, as you described.
Yes. Yes, it is. The Rachel's Vineyard weekend, it's really a safe space to just let it all out. Your abortion experience, any other traumas that are relating to that. Like we mentioned earlier, the commodity of having, people around you who have experienced wonderful leaders in the group to look up to as a role model or to reach out to when you're feeling down. And it's a family, and you can keep coming back and reaching out, to that support system that you established.
Right, because you become family.
Yes.
People do get very close because you can kind of know somebody better after a weekend like that than you might some friends you've had for 30 years.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a bonding experience. If we're talking, and anyone out there in this listening audience is struggling with an unplanned pregnancy, or if you love somebody who's struggling with an unplanned pregnancy and you're not sure how to support them, what would your advice be to any parents or friends who might?
So I think truly listening for the different cues that people, it's not always as straightforward. I'm considering an abortion, or I'm in pain. It's knowing the people around you and listening for the cues that they're asking for help or need help, and responding in that way. If you have a friend who's, pregnant and not quite sure what to do, you don't want to just be neutral. You want to, share the truth and talk from your heart, and in my case, I just recently was speaking with someone, and she brought up that she had a friend that was pregnant, and the friend had confided in her and wasn't sure what to do. And we were talking, and I said, you can still be a supportive friend, but you can let her know that the pregnancy she's thinking about aborting is the sibling of the baby of the child she has now. How is she going to care for the second baby if she has a first already? And it's not how are you gonna, but this is the sibling of that baby. Don't take it away.
Yeah. I do think that I think women need to be affirmed that they would be good mothers.
Yes.
I don't think that anybody ever says that, oh my God, you're going to be the best mom in the world. I know you. I know how much you care about your friends. I know how much you do. But I think in a time when it's more like, what are you going to do? And kind of a discomfort with attaching and recognizing or even celebrating that this is good news. And if I ever say that to somebody, they say, you're the first person who ever said that to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, congratulations, this is so exciting. Yeah. You're going to be the best mom. What can we do to help?
Yeah, exactly.
And usually it's one of those situations where they're in college. Oh, but I have to finish my degree. I have to do all these things. And it's like, well, this sort of, something else happened along the way.
Yeah.
And by being able to affirm that person and say, listen, okay, maybe college will finish up at another time, but this is quite important right here, right now. And you've been such a great help to me, Emily, because sometimes when I take a call for our retreat, and there's someone about your same age, and you recently helped someone.
She's having her baby in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
And you found out that she lives pretty close to where you are. I had no idea about that.
The day after I came home from the hospital from having my 6-month-old baby now, she came over for coffee and we just talked. I think all too often when someone shares a pregnancy, the response is, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? We should be like, oh, congratulations, and build them up and not immediately go to, what other options you have. We should celebrate the pregnancy.
Start planning a shower.
Yes.
Make sure we invite everybody in the neighborhood so that
exactly.
she gets what she needs.
Turn that story around.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything else either of you want to say?
Did you want to read your letter?
Yes, I can read. I am going to read for you my original letter to my child for my first retreat back in 2010. So this is 17-year-old Emily writing this. Dear Boo, this is a day all about you. I want to start off by saying that you will always be my little angel. I miss you and I think about you every day. I yearn to hold you and kiss you and smell you. I'll never stop loving you. You are a part of me, and when I lost you, I lost a part of myself. But God has filled that emptiness with your love, and I will go on and be the best woman that I can in honor of you. I can still remember clear as day the night that I spent holding my belly and talking with you. I had only known I was pregnant for a few days, and I was scared. But that night when I laid down and looked down on you and began to pray, I asked God to make me strong, and something came over me, and I was no longer scared, but I was happy. And I said, "Hi, Boo, it's Mommy." And that's where his name comes from. And I'm here and I'm going to protect you. I remember telling you from this point on that I was going to love you with all my heart, and that has never stopped. Even though I was scared, I was happy you were here. The feeling I felt cannot be explained in words. It felt like my life had just received the greatest meaning I could have ever asked for. Since I was a little girl, I've always fantasized about being a mother. I love children and I love caring for people. We spent the whole night bonding. It was one of the most magical nights of my life. And I know you were happy that I was your mommy. I don't regret being pregnant, but I do regret not fighting harder for you. I have a tissue, thank you. I fought and I fought and I thought and I thought. And I thought I was so determined to protect you. I had already fell in love with you. I had no support, and it was only us. And I didn't know how I could possibly have raised you the way you deserved to be without their support. I'm very sorry, and I want you to know that you are the most special person in the world. I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to come to Earth, but it's okay. You got to skip all the hard stuff and go straight to heaven with Jesus. And it's only a matter of time before we're together again. You'll live on in my heart, in my mind, and in my dreams. Love, Mom.
Oh, that's a beautiful testimony.
Thank you.
You were saying that you read that this morning after many years of not reading it from the 17-year-old you.
Yes.
What were you aware of as you read the letter?
I was proud of myself. I was proud that I've lived up to what I said I was going to do. And that makes me even stronger to keep going on.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Wow. You've been just incredible with the insight that you've given, the folks watching this program today. And,
thank you.
It took a lot of courage, and thank you just so much for that.
There's power in not staying silent and sharing your truth and honoring their memory. Being silent doesn't do anything for the heart. It's speaking the truth and living your truth and sharing it with others.
Speaking of which, you're with Silent No More, right?
Yes.
So, and do you want to just explain briefly what that is?
So Silent No More is an organization where you can sign up to speak your truth publicly and share your testimony and be a resource for women who find themselves with a pregnancy that they're not sure what to do. And I think there's power in sharing our stories. Many times we're silenced and the world tells us, everything's going to be okay. You don't have to have this baby. Everything will go back to normal. But that's very much not the truth. And it's not the reality for a lot of women. And we need to share the other side.
Oh, sure. And that's Silent No More Awareness.
Yes.
.org. I don't know. Silent No More Awareness. You'll find it. But there's hundreds and hundreds of testimonies on there. Yeah. Because you're right. We do need to say women need nonviolent solutions that don't evade their physical, spiritual, and personal integrity.
Exactly.
And that needs to be out there, especially as everybody's debating choice. And
yes, even more important to speak the truth. And there's so many different scenarios in which abortion occurs that on Silent No More's website you can find something to connect to, no matter what your circumstances.
Yeah. Well, you said there's power in the testimony, and I would just like to say a prayer for anybody watching and for you here today. Just that we know, Lord, that there's power in your name and there's great power in your love. And that when we turn to you for anything that we need or that we regret, Lord, you're there swiftly with all the love and your willingness to fill our pain with your holy and living presence. So we rejoice in this gift, and we rejoice in the healing that you offer so generously. And we ask you to bless all the viewers who are watching. Anybody who has been hurting, we ask that you just touch their heart and give them courage to take the next step and make a closer, make movement toward you, Lord. And we thank you for the gift of Rachel's Vineyard and any post-abortion ministries that are out doing this work in the depths of people's souls. And we ask for the intercession of Our Lady upon all of us. and for the intercession of Our Lady, Queen of Peace, to bring peace in our hearts and in our histories. Through your holy name, amen.
Amen.
Well, thank you, Theresa. Thank you, Emily, so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching today.